we ready? Are you ready, Tom?
I'm already going.
Good morning, everyone. It is now 9 o'clock. It is Tuesday, July 19, 2022. Welcome to the regular Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. Commissioner Tony Hatch, would you please lead us on an invocation, please?
Lord, we pray that you will direct each and every one of our steps, allowing us to be influenced by your Spirit and your grace. May all our steps glorify you, and may we never doubt the plans you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Commissioner Luis Lopez, please lead us on pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Curran.
Commissioner Hess.
Here.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
I'm here. Approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Curran?
One change, Commissioner, that is that ask the board to remove item 7A, unfinished business. Separation of will and potential change order number 1.
Okay. Are any questions, comments from the board? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda with that correction.
Second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. Let's go to section 2, consideration of minutes. We don't have any. Section 3, reading of correspondence, Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioner Luis Lopez, would you like to go first?
Thank you. Just a quick reminder for everybody that next week is our county fair. Before I go into my brief reports today, for the boards I serve on. The fair starts on Monday. There's a lot of shows happening throughout the week. The festivities go on until Saturday evening. Friday afternoon is, or evening is the dinner and dance that we have in the fairgrounds. Starting the year, and then the sales on Saturday. So I encourage everybody to come out and support the 4-H kids. And come out and purchase an animal and spend some money with our kids and our youth and help promote them moving forward. On July the 14th, I had a ribbon renewal board meeting here in the City Hall. We have 2 new board members that have taken their seats with the City of Trinidad approval, and we have 1 resignation from Commissioner Bolton. She is resigning her position after serving on her renewal for about 4 years, or probably longer. This is her 2nd term, I believe. So it's unfortunate that we'll be losing her. So there'll be another vacancy, 2 vacancies for the Urban Renewal Authority. So if anyone is interested in participating, please contact Chairman and Grego. Moving forward, we are in the process of searching for funding for an executive director. The biggest problem that Urban Renewal stalls have had is the lack of an executive director to act on behalf of the City of Trinidad for ADO compliance issues, dilapidated buildings or they don't call them slums anymore, it's called blight. So buildings we have in blight. So without having an executive director, very difficult. We have approached the City of Trinidad twice now to request funding from Mayor Rico and from the former city manager, and hopefully we'll have that ongoing. There was also an issue with the funding for the TIF, the tax increment funding, a concern to the board, and I'll be getting with Treasurer Leonetti today and this model. The funding seems to be declined to the tune of $26,000 for the TIF due to appropriated funds and the Gallagher amendments and all the other entities. The statutes are going to, as the appraisals are coming in from the assessor's office and the assessed evaluations have declined. So that's what the TIF is. So that's a huge blow to a budget of $40,000 that we're going to be down $14,000 $20,000, so $26,000 with the income looking at the account. I apologize if I reverted those, inverted those two. So we're moving forward with that, and I'll be checking with those two entities today. Otero Partners Incorporated met yesterday morning, and we have a lot of activity there. This group is really active right now. We have a lot of activity for Los Angeles County for loans. For those of you that aren't familiar with Otero Partners, it's a lending mechanism between Los Angeles County and Otero County to give out small business loans in our counties. We have one loan that was approved. Thank you, Finance Committee members, Felix and Christie, for giving the approval for a glass shop operation out in Otero County, which is mainly more of a line of credit cushioning for this gentleman's operations. The other loan that was on the books for a beauty bar, what's called, is has been tabled at this time. The referral coming back in to deny the loan from the Finance Committee. However, the board members and majority of board members in Otero County requested to see more documentation and possibly, for you Finance Committee members, possibly more collateral, if that would help determine whether this loan of $50,000 would be entertained if that was a possibility. So that will be coming back to Finance Committee members of a possible additional information for you to make a determination. I did caution the board to follow through with our Finance Committee members' recommendations due to the fact is we've had some issues in the past where the Otero Partners board of directors went against the recommendation of the Finance Committee and had to endure some hardships regarding some of those issues. They have been resolved. However, we need to trust the Finance Committee members moving forward for their recommendations. So we do have about 4 other loan applicants in Los Angeles County alone, small businesses. So I hope to see all those come to fruition here shortly, and they'll come before you guys soon. We have $680,000 cash in the bank for Otero Partners. There's money to lend, so please contact myself or Danelle Berg with Otero Partners here in Otero County. And Chairman, that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hess.
Yes. Welcome reprieve from the previous 2 weeks. I only have 2 meetings to report on this time. So, on the 15th of July, I attended the CCI legislative update on Zoom. This specific meeting was for counties to introduce proposed legislation that CCI and staff will champion. Only 8 out of 10 of the plethora of concepts introduced by the counties will be pursued. Some concepts were in Ag, Wildlife, and Rural Affairs was to establish a voluntary incentive-based agriculture district to stop the loss of agriculture productive land to urban sprawl. That was introduced by Larimer County. In general government, introduced by Adams County, was an update on Core to Protect all attorney-client privilege communications. And there was approximately 30 more dealing with health, human services, public lands, taxation, finance, transportation, and communications. So it's going to be a busy year. We'll vote on those at our CCI conference, which we're going to take a position on and move forward. On that following Saturday, the Masonic picnic was held up at Larry Child's place, and they awarded the Junior Achievement Awards, and Dario Pisani was the male recipient, and Ronnie Sandroman was the female recipient. So congratulations to those 2 individuals for getting the Junior Achievement Awards. That's very cool, sir.
I have one more to add. A big thank you to Phil Dorkamp, Chris Torley, from the Board of Health. The paving project has been done at the Health Department, and they said to tell you both and the county commissioners, thank you for letting the parking lot was beautiful. It's really good. Good job.
Thank you, Commissioners. Real brief, I want to welcome everyone and also be online and remind that at 10 o'clock we have a public hearing. So however the agenda progresses between now and then, we will stop the regular meeting to go into the public hearing, requesting and getting information on this particular issue of vacating a road. So My report, we had Congressman Ken Box representatives in the community, and with it, USDA, SBA, and other representatives where we met at the college. We spent a couple of hours going over opportunities for counties, opportunities for citizens, grants, loans, and that type of opportunity to enhance the recovery post-pandemic. One of the most important things that we took away from the meeting was that the loans that small businesses took out during the pandemic are now back on track. And the repayments will have to begin fairly soon. What the majority of businesses did is they enter into a 30-year agreement. Some of the businesses that procured this particular business loan does carry the obligation to repay the loan. One of the questions that I asked specifically of the group was, will there be any loan forgiveness? They would not elaborate on that, but at the end of the day, the criteria is there, and it was so imperative and important that I actually invited them to come back and begin to put out informational flyers throughout the communities, because for a lot of the businesses that went and procured these loans may be thinking we're still in deferment. They have been deferred for however many months, and now it is time, the deadline is coming up. So keep an eye on that, and certainly through the loan and government perspective, that has to be the machine, and then the time is going to begin once again. Last Friday, I was invited to attend a meeting with the city of Trinidad. It was one of those meetings that came just in time through Source Energy Developers. And what this company is doing, they came to visit Trinidad and perhaps in the near future, Los Angeles County in providing energy, electricity, from a different perspective, energy that is going to be produced through a green mechanism, either wind or solar. But what this company actually does have in perspective is the storage capacity. Apparently, I'm not an electrical engineer, so I wouldn't begin to elaborate on it. But what they said is that once you have this storage capacity, you're able to deploy the energy, not as currently is traveling, you use it, and then you have the spikes. They have a different perspective, so Mr. Dorringham probably has some information, perhaps to do a work session with the county. And one of the big findings that they said that Los Angeles County, well, the city of Trinidad, has one of the highest kilowatt hour cost in the nation through the current contract that they have procured. So from that perspective, it sounded pretty interesting whether we will end up getting into any type of an agreement on behalf of our citizens. That's yet to be seen, because right now we have two providers. The provider that brokers the electricity for the city, and then we have cities love in the county. So we don't know what that is, and we don't know if there's any kind of a legal and contracts and that kind of thing. It was kind of an informational session, but it was nonetheless very interesting. And the last, as Commissioner Tony has mentioned, the meeting that we had last Friday through Colorado Counties Incorporated, as counties come together, we begin to identify 8 bills that will become CCI priority bills. What are some of the priority bills that we, as 62 counties, push forward and get behind to get them across the finish line? One of them, of course, rural Colorado has been under attack. The ag industry has been pretty much out there. So we will be coming together. If there is any legislation that comes against ag or rural Colorado, I can assure you that Colorado County is going to be front and center, voicing our opinions. We have a great opportunity working directly with Commissioner Tony Haas. He leads one of the committees that he's the chair of the committee, and I, for the rest of the year, will continue to serve as president of CCI. So we have a big voice from Los Angeles County going to that perspective, and we will be influencing. So now we have a meeting September 7 or 8, somewhere around there, in which we'll be identifying those priority bills. Out of all the ones that are coming in there, we'll put them in the funnel and see how many we identify as priority 1, and then the rest of them basically continue to go forward from a different perspective, priority B. So very interesting process, legislative process that gives an opportunity from the grassroots to make a difference, not only for your county, but for the state of Colorado. So, and that's going to be my report. Let's go to elected officials update. We have a message from Sheriff Derek Navarrete. No updates. Los Angeles County Assessor, Joey Amaro. If you're online, do you have any updates for us? Let me go to Los Angeles County Clerk and Recorder. Mr. Hill. Any updates? Los Angeles County Treasurer, Ms. Donna Leonetti. I see you on there, Donna. No updates? Okay.
Excuse me, Bonnie Flanagan. I have no update except for you, I do have some statements for you on the TIF program.
Yes.
If you want to stop by us later.
I sure will. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let us go now to anybody from the San Luis County District Attorney, Mr. Henry Solano. Anybody with the San Luis County Coroner, Mr. Berker. Anyone with the San Luis County Surveyor, Mr. Gary Terry. And Ms. Amaro, we have called on you. I don't know if you have an update. I saw you watching across the hall, so I know you were away from your desk.
Good morning, Board. I always have an update. It's been a very busy couple probably last 30 days have been very, very busy. First of all, we have wrapped up our protest period, and I believe so far I think I have one that's appealing to the County Board of Equalization. So we have to have that heard and a decision rendered by August 5th. So we need to set that up. I will be getting with Paula and Phil to set up a time because next week is Los Angeles County Fair. So I will be very busy and running back and forth from this building out to the fairgrounds as I am on the fair board. I am a fair mom. I am also a 4-H club leader, so I have 32 kids to get ready to get through the next week. But I believe we only have one so far that has appealed to the CBOE. So on that note, I will get with Mr. Phil and we will get that set up and hopefully taken care of. Hopefully it won't take too much time.
You might not be on the call earlier when I discussed the TIF for urban renewal. I think you had a discussion with Mr. Drago, our chairman, but if you have time just after this meeting, I can get with you.
Please come see me. I am meeting with Mr. Drago next week, after fair,
Okay.
the first week of August sometime.
I know I need some documentation regarding, there was an assessment reduction, correct? Is that now?
There is a reduction. There was also a reduction. TIF will not see the funds they used to see because the governor exempted up to $50,000 of actual value for personal property. So that removed a lot of that revenue from the TIF district. He did that last year when he signed that bill.
And that was for statewide.
That was statewide.
So that's an impact in other communities with their TIF funding?
Yes, I can, but we have some more bills that are going to affect TIF even more directly because of what I'm going to explain to you gentlemen coming up. We had a House bill and a Senate bill that passed this year. House Bill 22-1223 is exempting mobile homes up to $28,000 actual value. So we will be, out of our 500 mobile homes, I will be sending out tax bills to approximately, possibly 80 tax bills on mobile homes. The treasurers floated a bill this year, and it was passed, and it was House Bill 22-1223 that exempted titled mobile homes up to $28,000 actual value or less will not be receiving a tax bill. The treasurer's thought process behind this was they spend a lot of time and money and energy trying to collect tax bills on mobile homes. So they did get enough traction to get it passed, and the governor did sign it. So we will, like I said, we will be sending out approximately 80 bills on titled mobile homes in the near future.
Will that impact tiny homes also?
Pardon?
Will that impact tiny homes?
Tiny homes are a horse of a different color right now because some tiny homes are titled, some tiny homes are still on a trailer. As long as those tiny homes are attached to that trailer, they should be getting license plates and tags. If they are fixed to the ground, I am assessing them as a tiny home, hence the word tiny home. But as long as they are on a trailer, most of them are built on flatbed trailers, which are titled. Most of our tiny homes are over 28,000. They are running somewhere, I've seen them anywhere from 80 to 150, depending on what type of tiny home or the amenities you want in your tiny home. So those are a little bit harder to track because a lot of them don't pull permits because they are mobile.
Well, does the state have any plan into that HB measure, that bill measure, to backfill the county, the difference from the 80 to the 500
No.
loss of revenue in the taxes?
No,
And the governor signed it.
Governor signed it.
What is the estimated loss of revenue for the San Luis County for those 420 could be exemptions?
Right now it's just an estimate because we haven't completely run our numbers, but we're looking at about $20,000 to the county, actual tax revenue through the door.
That's a part-time FTE here for the county.
Right, and the thought, one of the reasonings I was told behind it was they are trying to protect the most vulnerable class of people, and we've all heard about low-income housing and how we're trying to combat that situation. This was one avenue they thought of how they would help the low-income housing. So if they don't have to pay taxes and they're exempted, we're helping that group of population. So,
Keep us posted on that. Once again, this is, yes, we understand the assistance, but there is no way of backfilling
no,
to meet the expenses of the county level.
correct.
And if you have time today, put that information for the TIF for me, that way we don't have to spend too much time.
But we can do that, and I'm going to get it all together when I meet with Mr. Griego, and you're welcome to attend that meeting. It'll be the first week of August. I'll let you know. See me after we get to.
After we get in there, okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
You're welcome. Next, we have House Bill 221416. Governor signed that bill for the only year is 2023. And what we are going to do with that is we will be exempting property. Residential property will get $15,000 actual value right off the top. Commercial buildings will get $35,000 right off the top. If I have a mixed-use building, such as first floor, like our Main Street, commercial and Main Street, first floor is commercial, second story is residential, they will get a total of $45,000 off the top of their assessed value.
Say that again, 45,000?
$45,000. This is for tax year 2023 only. So counties across the state, every assessor's office will be going to their commissioners trying to find funding because we have to rewrite our code in our systems to adjust and handle all of these adjustments for the tax year 2023. And only 1 year. Depending on what happens next year in legislation, this could be a continuation, but we aren't sure at this moment till we convene and see what legislators want to do in Denver. But currently,
Added expense to the county.
it is. So currently, this is for tax year 2023. We have not run the numbers yet because at the moment, our computer systems, our camera systems, they're not equipped to get us the data we need. So we're doing a lot of hand calculations and giving it our best estimate that we can to see what the impact is going to be. There is supposed to be some backfill for 2023 coming out of TABOR refunds to the counties for this. We just don't have those numbers yet. Like I said, we're scrambling to try to do the best we can outside of our systems.
Do you know what the fiscal note impact when they run this legislation? What did they list out there?
I don't believe they listed one because they were looking at it as a backfill from TABOR refunds.
But indeed, that is a unfunded mandate. So
Correct.
counties, in the event that TABOR refunds are not necessarily large enough to cover the expenditure.
And you have to have an excess in TABOR before you can give the refund.
Correct. So personally, and as the assessor, this makes me take pause because if it's for 2023 only, I feel that there's legislation already in the pipeline to do something, to continue this or do something of this nature going forward, because I have a hard time understanding why we would put so much thought and dedication and waste of a lot of political capital on something of this nature for 1 year only. So that makes me that makes me believe in my gut that we have more coming. So we'll have to be paying attention and aware of that. Here locally, though, it is going to mean that I have to run, my office has to run and send out NOEs for 3 years in a row, which is something we typically do every other year. Because we will also be adjusting assessment rates for 1 year only. And then those will revert back in 2024. So we will have a 3-year span where we are adjusting assessment rates on vacant land, ag land, commercial businesses, residential homes, along with these tax or valuation adjustments. So we will be sending out close to 40,000 NOVs 3 years in a row, with postage going up, cost of printing going up, cost of supplies going up.
Value adjustment.
A value adjustment.
Wish our finance department and Mr. Dorenkamp and all of our department heads the best of luck in finding how you guys are going to get this accomplished with all of these unfunded mandates upon counties. It's just ridiculous. The onslaught continues.
The onslaught continues, and unfortunately, we were at the table on this bill, but once again, and this is my personal opinion, this is legislation using the legislative process for re-election purposes. And that is my personal opinion.
Keep us an update, keep us updated. I know there was also chatter about Gallagher. Eventually that's going to have to be addressed, but that could also be an additional impact to counties.
Yes, it can. Even though we voted 2 years ago to de-Gallagherize, and essentially we're right back at Gallagher through a legislative motion.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, gentlemen.
We're going to go to public comment, and I want to, just for clarification purposes, if your public comment is related to the actual public hearing, if that is so, we might want to wait until the public hearing, which is at 10 o'clock. I believe I have the names of those of you that I see here. Unless you still can have the platform if you wish to, but then you'll get an opportunity later on to do so.
We'll wait. Thank you.
All right, very good. Just wanted to clarify that. And do we have anybody online that would like to address this board on public comment? Okay, let me ask again. Is there anyone online that would like to address the Board of County Commissioners on the public comment? If so, please unmute yourself, raise your hand, and you'll get 3 minutes. Seeing none, we're going to go now to section 6 presentations. Mr. Dorenkamp, we have one text my gov. Do we have any representative online that is going to be addressing this board under that particular title?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lopez.
Good morning, how are you, sir?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Welcome.
Good, thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me and my coworker, Jericho, just a couple minutes of your time today. I would like to share my screen. So, Mr. Dorenkamp, if you guys have that ability to allow me to share my screen so I can show the council or the commissioner, I apologize, the commissioners. Perfect, thank you. So, really quick, with TextMyGov, we are a communications platform that basically improves communications between the county and its business. And so how we're able to do that, we do 2 different things. We send out mass notification text to citizens, and then we allow citizens, if they have questions or concerns, they can text that in to get that information they're looking for through automated responses. There is no download needed on this part. How our system works is we provide you a local phone number. So obviously for Honeyman County, it would be a 719 area code. And so if you guys have your cell phones with you, I'd like actually to have you guys see this opportunity to try out TextMyGov. We're located in northern Utah, so this phone number that you see on the screen here, this is our demonstration number. But if you can take out your phone numbers, my coworker Jericho created a couple of examples for you. So I'll give you guys a moment, but why don't you text this number and text fire restriction, marriage license, as So once you, I'll give you guys a moment to try that out really quick and to get those responses back.
This won't get my phone hacked, will it?
No, it won't. I do want to mention on that part as well. Our system is hosted by Amazon Web Cloud Services. The Department of Defense of the United States actually uses that same hosting service as well to preserve their information.
That's not very
We have a very
reassuring.
secure system.
All right, you say so.
Okay. So as you guys are doing this, I'll keep it on the slide just for a few seconds more. I can see a couple of people are affected the fire restriction, as well as the marriage license as well. And so these responses, as you can see, I'll bring over the back end as well. So let me give you guys a couple more seconds. But you guys are starting to receive these automated responses. We're not doing anything on our end for you guys to receive that. That's all automated. So let me bring over the back end of TextMyGov. So when we were showing Phil, Christy, and Kim from 911 Emergency Services, they all found this to be really beneficial, just to help reduce phone calls, boost your website traffic, because you guys invest into your website, so you want to make sure that's useful for you guys, for sure. So under stuff, these are the responses. These are the automated responses that we've created. And so there's a limit on how many words we can create. I'm going to bring up marriage license as one of the examples that we have for Los Angeles County right now. So you can see here, right, these are the responses that you guys have texted in, and this is the response that you have received if you were to text a marriage license. We also added additional trigger words trigger words or keywords or phrases that citizens can text in. They're looking for the same information, they just said it differently, right? So they're still going to receive that same response. So that's how citizens can text in and find information. The next section of TextMyGov is how citizens can report an issue. So now all you have texted in, if you have texted the word pothole as a quick example, what it's going to do is, let me bring it up really quick. When you text in pothole, you're going to start to receive this first response that will say, to report a public works issue, text on the following, gives you the options, and then you just text the word pothole again. And then we'll start to go through a series of questions. And that's the information that your public works department or your roads department, but whatever they need, the information they need to fix up that pothole, you guys can ask those questions. Maybe it's in your address, your first and last name, asking for a brief description and uploading a picture. Well, this information is then completed by the citizen and then put into an email or text if preferred, and then sent off directly to the correct department. And as many people are doing that department, so they can receive that notification when an issue is being reported. Any questions so far on how this works at all?
No, I like this information, thank you.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you, sir. So that's how system reform can issue. The last part of our system is the notification side. Now, working with, like I said, with Bill and Christy and Kim, this could also be very beneficial for you guys. And so how this part works is you can see here we have a list of groups. And these are different types of notification groups that citizens can choose to opt into by texting in their associated keyword. So for example here, we have county elections or weather alerts. They just text this keyword, for example, city weather or county election, to a short code number, and then they're opted in to receive those alerts. It's that simple. You text the keyword to a short code number, you're opted in. Now, on the back end, in order for you guys to send out a mass notification to your citizens, all you need to do is come over here to the right side of the page, select your group. So for example, maybe there's a weather alert, you type in your message here, then hit send. It's that simple. That's all you need to do, and it's enough to all your citizens who are in that group. Working with Kim in the 911 system as well, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of iPods before, but it's an emergency alert system that does local emergency alerts that citizens don't have to sign up for. We have just come into partnership with them. That will be live with us in the next couple of months, so Kim was really excited for that end as well. We also have a map selection. This will be the last part I'll show you guys. I don't want to take up too much more of our time. But essentially, this is to be able to send out specific parts of the county. So maybe there's, road construction, or there's, for example, the county fair that's coming up next week. We want to send out to a specific, neighborhood saying, hey, look, the light will be on a little bit later tonight. Please be aware, or whatever that may be, right? So each of these red dots represent a citizen. So you can actually begin to highlight an area where it highlights them, and then you get to, county fair, right? Send out the specific area within there. So then it creates that group. So again, you do the same thing. You select that group, type in your message, then hit send, and then send out to that specific area within your county. So essentially, ladies and gentlemen, that's what Text My Gov can do for you guys. Again, it helps citizens report issues, helps them to find information, and then you guys are able to send out notifications or alerts to your citizens, notifying them of anything that's happening within the county. Are there any other questions or concerns that we can help you guys answer today?
I have a couple quick questions. How is the interaction back from the county to the texter or the customer using this integrated for response, not just for looking for information, but say they have a pothole on the road? Is that our end to monitor that system, or do you have an automated response and then an alert our road and bridge department? How does that work?
Can you repeat that last part? You were putting on my end, I apologize.
I'm sorry? Oh, so my question was, how is the county to communicate back to the person texting concerns such as the pothole on a county road? Is it on our end to monitor the texting and reply, or do you have an automated response or direct email to our road and bridge department?
Great question. So essentially how this works is once the citizen texts in the word pothole, for example, let me show you an example of an email. So this is the pothole request. And so you get that information, right? All that information. And then once you want to notify the citizen, once the pothole has been completed, you do need to come in here. And so you hit view conversation here at the very bottom of this email. They'll take you directly to the right conversation. And so then you can then reply to them. There will be a reply box where you can then reply to them and say, this issue has been taken care of. Thank you for, if you have any questions, please call us or whatever that may be, right? So it's up to the individual to reply to them. And then, as I was saying previously, the email can be sent off to whoever you need it to be sent off to. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. And what is the average cost to the county for this service?
Sorry, what did you say? I'm so sorry.
What is our average cost to the county for this service?
Oh, great question. So yeah, we did provide still with that pricing. It is a $3,800 annual fee, and then we also do have a one-time initial setup fee.
What's that amount?
And that is also, let me bring that up, $1,750. So your total for your first year is $5,550.
The last question I have for you, you know how many miles of county roads we have to check potholes in Los Angeles County?
Quite a bit, I would imagine.
Fourth largest county in the United States.
Really? I did not know that. Wow. Well, the price just doubled. So.
No, I thought we were going to get a discount. So my question to you would be, what kind of marketing campaign and how long do the counties that you have enlisted does it really take to get the constituents involved in knowing that we provide this type of services? I know we have a lot of our communities here, they don't have access, dependable access to internet, so it could be a newspaper, radio, flyers, I don't know. So can you walk us through your marketing process?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what we do, and I apologize, this isn't a municipality in Colorado. I have to talk with them. So keep in mind that, again, any of this is customizable, but this is sticking out in Texas. So we create a widget on our website, and again, as you were saying, a lot of people don't have access to your, to internet. And so what we also do is we help create flyers. As you were saying, we can put these in the newspaper, we can put these in wherever we feel like would be seen most, or most in areas, maybe a county fair, for example, or local businesses or markets. But we create these flyers. You can see here, we have examples of, for citizens to text in, looking for answers, looking for an issue, receive city alerts via text, right? So again, we'll help create flyers. We can, like I said, we can put a widget on your website where citizens can still look at that widget. In fact, this is actually town of Blue River out there in Colorado. This is their little widget here. Click on more information. Here, I'll make it a little bit bigger. Click on more info. So it tells you how to report issues, get contact information, find information, right? So that's part of our marketing campaign is we do offer those things to help you bring down your citizens. And on average, what we've seen this be like is for average on our county, it's for the setup process, it usually takes 30 to 45 days to get this set up and completed to go live. And after that, it usually takes, I'm not going to lie, a couple months for this to get really moving along pretty quickly. But we usually see a pretty good success rate after about 6 months or so. You can see a pretty high success rate with the platform.
I have a question. So maybe you answered this question, but I'm still unclear on it. So how time cumbersome is this to our county? Phil, who's going to monitor it? And how are you going to manage that?
I think the monitoring part of it would be split amongst different staff members, myself, Christie, Paul, and Keith.
We know you have all that time.
Sir, if you don't mind me kind of helping fill out with that as well to answer that question. What we've seen be done is, as you saw, and as you may have experienced with automated responses, right, you don't need to be really monitoring that side, right? Really the monitoring side of TextMyGov is being able to send out notifications. And so what we see on average is for each municipality or each county, they usually take a look at TextMyGov. If they're not sending out a message, look at TextMyGov about once a week, take about 10-15 minutes, make sure everything is running smoothly. So it's not a lot of management. We don't want to add on more work to your county. That's not our goal here. Our goal is to lessen the phone calls and increasing communication with your citizens. So there's really not a lot of monitoring. At the very beginning, we may monitor a little bit more, just make sure we have all our automated responses correct, and all that. But as the time goes on, it's less and less monitoring and management on the county side.
Well, the reason I asked the question is so we have a pothole on 81-2 that needs to be filled, and that's on the text message. And this afternoon, the guys go out and they fix it, and somebody's going to have to monitor that and take it down, saying that it is fixed or no longer.
Yeah, Tyler, I think you addressed that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we can set up this system so that, depending if the topic might be public works or administration, an email is sent, once the text is received, an email is sent to a recipient that we determine. For instance, it would be the Road and Bridge Department for Public Works. And then the Road and Bridge Department then would issue that to the correct foreman. And then the foreman would go out and fix the pothole, or have his crew would fix the pothole. And then our Public Works, Brandy in this case, will respond back to that citizen saying it's been taken care of. Am I not correct in that? So it isn't that the staff here, the staff here in the courthouse would necessarily have to go in and monitor the spreadsheet and set it up so the emails are being distributed according to whatever category that citizens texting their concern with, whatever category that may be under.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
What's your success rate in applying your program to other municipalities and counties in the state of Colorado? Or are we your first sales pitch county?
No, great question. So as of right now, I think we have about, 10 or 12 customers in the state of Colorado. We only have a couple that are live because a lot of them are kind of just recently, but we've had a good success rate with a couple of our municipalities as well. Let me pull that up really quick. So the city of, or the town of Blue River and then the town of Still, they're a couple of our smaller towns. They're the ones that have been live with us for a little while, and they've had a really good success rate, especially in the public works department, as well as the entire towns themselves. But we do have a couple other counties that are actually in setup as of now, and so I believe I can pull them up really quick. Really quick. So we have Lyons County and I think it's Penisburg County as well. Those two counties have just signed on with us and they're all set up right now currently.
And one last question, Chairman, and that Tyler. Knowing what
Yes,
you
sir.
heard, I know you were on the meeting earlier today listening to our assessor giving us some bad news about unfunded mandates and loss of revenue. Knowing that,
Yes, sir.
does your text my gov contract be terminated at any time? Because you know annually, year to year, we are, might have some budget restraints. Is that an issue with your contract if we enter into that?
So we do require a 1-year agreement. After that 1-year agreement, if you guys give us a 60-day written notice, we can obviously cancel that out for you as well. To be quite upfront with you, we actually don't make any money until our second year. That's to be quite honest with you, but that's why. So it's kind of rare that we do a 1-year agreement, but with you guys, we're willing to do that because we kind of know, as this is that bad news as well, that there are budget constraints. If there is, we can also work out, finances and invoicing and all of that. We're willing to work with you guys there.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Okay.
Well, Tyler, I don't know, any more questions, Commissioners? I think we have enough information on our end. Let us do some number crunching, and certainly we'll stay connected. If you have any questions, we'll be communicating through Mr. Dornkamp as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We have, it is now 9:47. The next presenter, I don't know, I'm gonna extend the opportunity. We would have to cut you short exactly at 10 o'clock if you want to wait. Hardworks Outreach Program, Bio of Life. If you're ready to present, we would have to stop your presentation exactly at 10 o'clock so we can join onto the public hearing that we have scheduled. And if you prefer, this board can actually take a recess for a few minutes and then come back. And after a public hearing, we can extend that plentiful time to do your presentation. Anyone online to comment on the presentation for Hardworks Outreach Program, Bio of Life? No one?
Commissioners,
Yes?
Mrs. Marie Espinosa was the one that had called to request being placed on the agenda.
Uh-huh.
She said she had done a presentation at the City of Trinidad and was going to give us the same.
Okay.
So if she's not there in person, I don't see her online.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we can do. Let me go ahead and the same invitation I want to extend to the Armstrong Consultants, Perry Stokes Industrial Park. Again, we have about 10 minutes at best if you wanted to do the presentation in those 10 minutes. I don't want to interrupt that, or we can extend the invitation to come back after our 10 o'clock public hearing, which we don't know at this point in time how long that's going to take.
Good morning. My name is Justin Dietz with Armstrong Consultants, and I can do a quick jump in here and show you kind of what we've laid out, and you can definitely cut me short when you need to for your public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and proceed.
All right, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do a share here of my screen. That show up there?
Yes, sir.
Right, great. Well, my name is Justin Peets, and I'm the planning director for Armstrong Consultants. I'm also a principal in the firm. We are the airport's planning and engineering firm, and we recently were contracted by the county to put together a industrial park layout, conceptual layout, showing some options for the development of an industrial park on airport property. So on the exhibit shown there, you can see there's an aerial with some parcels identified and some roads coming in and around. The green line delineates the existing airport property line. So this industrial park development conceptual layout, as shown, is shown on airport property. So the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, is obviously heavily involved in all development on the airport. So part of the process is just this initial layout that we put together, showing an option for identifying parcels to be developed for industrial use. The brown is future roads that are coming into the parcels. We limited to try and reduce the number of entrances onto the existing county road. We typically find that when we put a lot of individual driveways onto a county road, that can be problematic, especially as development occurs. So we did show the future road coming in and kind of the entrance and exit, with a little bit of circulation there. And then the road coming in so that we can provide access to all the different parcels that we've identified. And those sizes are ranging in the 3 to 5 acre range. And the biggest thing that we see with conceptual development is flexibility. As you start sharing this with the public and notifying them that you have land available for industrial development, we want to make sure that it can adapt to whatever the individuals are looking for. So the parcel sizes, the acreage, really aren't locked in. There's flexibility on those depending on who comes in. If somebody wanted 10 acres or 20 acres, you could accommodate that. So just trying to stay as flexible as possible, since we don't have, a crystal ball to know exactly what the future is going to hold. So I wanted to get your initial thoughts on this layout, showing those parcels. And as we continue moving forward, there will be certainly more discussion. Like I said, the Federal Aviation Administration is heavily involved. We'll be working through a process to identify these parcels as non-aeronautical revenue generating. So the airport is eligible for receiving grant funding from the FAA. So capital improvement projects like runways, and taxiways, and aircraft parking, and those types of things, the FAA issues grants to help maintain those and develop those. So as part of the assurances that you receive when you get those grants is that the airport is going to try and strive to become as self-sustaining as possible. So revenue generated from these types of development is typically encouraged by the FAA. They really like the airport making money and using that for capital improvement projects. They do expect that revenue that's generated off of development like this to stay on airport property, to stay at the airport, to be utilized for matching grants, as well as just maintaining the facility. So it's a good thing from their eyes, but there is a process that we have to go through as we continue down the road of releasing this. It's technically what we're doing is we're releasing it from aeronautical purposes and opening it up to non-aeronautical uses. So these don't have to be aviation uses. They could be, any type of commercial, industrial type development. But like I said, revenue generated from those does need to stay on the airport. So just wanted to share this with you. I've been working with Phil, and he wanted us to give a little quick presentation and show you kind of what we've come up with so far, and open it up for any questions.
Go ahead. So thank you for this presentation, and Mr. Dornkamp, for you guys working on this. This is exactly what we were looking for, as far as I'm concerned, as a commissioner, to utilize the best our property that the county citizens own out of the airport. Question I have for you is in the diagram that you gave us here, the blue building looking thing on 3.4 acres. I don't think there is a building there. What is the purpose of that in your illustration?
Sure, yep, so that, you're right, there's nothing out there right now. That is, like you said, it's a future building, so we wanted to kind of give a little bit of a conceptual rendering, so to speak, of what, a possibility could look like. So, if it's a warehouse or that type of development, so the building is the blue, and then the brown is the parking lot and access to it, with, if it's if required, and there's cargo that needs to go in and out, we do show some, semi-docking stations. So just a conceptual idea, basically, of what a development on the parcel could look like. And like I said, there's a lot of flexibility on these. When you start moving forward and you start getting, interest in the development, that's really when it probably is the most appropriate time to start thinking about utility extensions. And we're in the very early stages at this point, so we're still collecting information on utilities, and we'll be doing some preliminary cost estimating to show what those costs look like. Obviously, you want to make revenue on this, so you want a return on investment. So looking at the overall development costs, and then there's certainly ideas out there on how different grants, like you got a grant for this project, and us looking at this from a conceptual standpoint, but there may be future funding opportunities as well in the future for getting these developed out and then making revenue on them. So certainly we can remove the conceptual development and not show that, but we just wanted to show kind of what something might look like, and and we can get more information as we continue along.
No, I think that's pretty much appreciated because it gives us a perspective of what would look like enough capacity for parking and the ability to access the property in and out. So really appreciate that. Any other questions from fellow commissioners?
One question, I don't know if Phil, you can answer this or this gentleman can, but what are the height requirements out there? If we were to put buildings out there, what are the height requirements?
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
The height requirements as far as
Or restrictions.
Justin, can you elaborate on that? Commissioner's wondering if a building was erected, are we restricted by any type of height requirements?
Yes, so very good question, and yes, any development on an airport requires an airspace evaluation. So as part of the airport layout plan drawing sets that were developed as part of the master plan, there's overlays of certain areas and height restrictions on those that need to be adhered to and taken into account. So yes, there is. The further we get away from runways, the higher it is. On the sides of runway, that slope goes up at a slope of 7 to 1. That's called a transitional surface until it reaches a height of 150 feet above the runway. So the further we get away from the runway, the higher we can go. But it is based on, ground elevation is taken into account, as well as the overall building height. So we, as your consultants, as development starts taking place, we'll be helping you out with the notification to the FAA, which is called the 7460-1 notice of proposed construction, and we'll ensure that all development is compatible from a height standpoint, so that it doesn't have an adverse impact on arrival and departure of aircraft.
And this circular road that surrounds this development, it follows the irrigation canal, correct?
It did, yeah. We basically used the irrigation canal kind of as the limit of our development. Inside of that, I think TFA would say that, that's accessible by taxiway to the runway, so we kind of use that as the constraint for this. I think there's a valid case there when we talk to the FAA to say this really makes a lot of sense for non-aeronautical uses because of that ditch. So we did use the road, or put the road right along that as a boundary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I appreciate that information, and at this point in time, going to move on. It's 9:59, so if you have any other questions, definitely we'll continue the conversation, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Let me entertain a motion right now to, council, will we go with a motion into the public hearing? Or can we just proceed?
It's part of your agenda.
Okay. Very good. It is now 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., and in front of us, the Board of County Commissioners, there is under Section 8, public hearing, Section A, BR 2022-001 by Fred and Michelle Eichler, requesting to vacate a portion of County Road 41.6, 16 feet wide, beginning on the northeast boundary of the Eichler property, then heading southwest approximately 4,335 feet to the southwest boundary of the property. The road is in part of Section 35, Township 31, Range 66. So let me kind of walk us through the process. This morning we're going to hear from the, first of all, from our land use director, Mr. Robert Lucero, who will come forward. And everyone that is going to be giving testimony will be sworn in. So your testimony will be taken once you're sworn in, and the board will have an opportunity to ask any clarification, any questions, and to address. And the order that we're going to be doing this is, I want to ask Mr. Lucero to come up first, and then the proponents to vacate this road, and then we'll go with anyone that opposes that. And the same instructions, if there's anyone online that would want to join the testimony, we'll have to be sworn in as well, and we're going to go in the same order. So once we do those here face-to-face for the proponents, then we'll go online, and as well, once we go on to the opposition, we will do those here face-to-face first, then we'll go to those online. Mr. Lucero, good morning, council.
You solemnly affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Robert Lucero.
Thank you.
This vacating proposal came before the Planning Commission twice. One time it was tabled because we did, one of the property owners was not notified. We heard it again in June. Basically, the Planning Commission, we had 4 present at that time. One of them abstained from voting as they had some business dealings with the applicant. And so he didn't vote on this. We had a 2-to-1 split on the voting, 2 for the applicant to be approved for vacating, 1 against. And then when the criteria for action on vacating that the Planning Commission took into account is that the proposed vacating will not interfere with development or deny any access via public thoroughfare to existing structures within recorded plat, adjoining properties, utility structures, facilities, or site locations beyond the plat, right-of-way, or easement to be vacated. That the proposed vacating will not cause undue hardship or inconvenience for any utility company, special districts, neighboring landowner, or tenant. That the proposed vacating will not be likely to prove detrimental to the public health, safety, welfare, or county residents. That the proposed vacating will be consistent with all other provisions of the regulations. And that the proposed vacating will not cause undue financial hardship to Los Angeles County, nor deprive it of any needed tax base. Those are the items, that the criteria that the Planning Commission looked at when deciding how they voted on it.
Mr. Curran, can you put up the map of the road that is in discussion, please?
Mr. Lucero, while we're waiting for the map to come up, in your guidance that you just stated there to the land use or planning commission, that is in our land use guidelines adopted by the county commissioners, is that?
Yes, it's in the land use regulations.
So it follows under the state statute as well, I'm sure, as adopted by the county commissioners?
The vacating
Just
procedure,
our land use guide.
that is just strictly the county.
District and county land use.
I think I know what you're asking. So what is governing you today is your land use guide, which is county. There's also state statute as to what has to be considered when vacating a road, which says that you cannot vacate a road
So the section that is being requested to be vacated is, that's about 8/10 of a mile, correct?
Yes, 4,343 feet.
Yeah, what I did is, it's on the road inventory. Basically, what I did is I used a measuring wheel, so it's not gonna be exact, it's gonna be pretty close.
Yes. So, Mr. Lucero, one question that I have is, and I know this is in our regulations, that on the criteria to approve this, item number 5, that the proposed vacating would not cause new financial hardship to the Salinas County nor deprive it of any needed tax base. I don't, the reimbursement per county road versus perhaps the cost to maintain that road. We are facing a ton of unfounded mandates and impacts by a lot of the legislative bills that are coming our way. So certainly on that, I know it's under the proposed guidelines, but so Mr. Dorrington, the financial impact will be based on that section of the road.
Prior to him answering your question, I will need to swear him in.
Okay.
He said to.
Okay.
Do you solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Phil Dorrington.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate that, Mr. Dorrington. I just want clarification on the reimbursement for linear mile.
We receive approximately $1,800 per linear mile from HETF funding for gravel roads.
Thank you. And this particular section, that 0.8 of a mile, is being maintained by the county currently.
It is on the
Correct.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Commissioners.
The date of the hearing was this was on June 6th, wasn't it? This recent?
Yeah, the original one,
June 6th.
yeah, I think so.
I have other questions.
I'm sure I have one. Mr. Lucero, if I'm reading the application correctly, this is the piece of road that's being considered now,
Yes.
4,300 feet. What about the remainder of that road that goes into Kansas?
That one, it was already heard by County Commission and went before county commissioners. And that portion, Mr. Burnkamp is referring to is on the preventive property. That was, you already approved that vacating. I think it was 12 or 1,300 feet. I don't remember exactly. But it would apply this portion that's requested to be vacated now.
So, Mr. Lucero, then given that information from the new request, those 8/10 of a mile, who are the property owners on either side of this particular road?
On either side of the portion that is requesting to be vacated belongs to Hikers. There are some gas well roads, that taper off that road. But yeah, both sides of that road belongs to Hiker. There's one that adjoins right as you go in, and they have been notified, and they are here at the meeting.
Okay. And so, one more just point of clarification. That county road, the 16 feet that it currently occupies, or at least described on the document, the 16 feet plus any right-of-way that may be existing abuts directly onto the Eichler property.
Yeah, the 16 feet, I mean, that's what's on the road inventory, I think, and that abuts the Highland property.
And that's a dead end when it comes into the Provenza property. If you were to stay straight on that all the way to the end of that, you end up at the Provenza property.
Yes.
Okay, there is no other connection,
No, there's not.
thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I don't have any.
I have other questions. Not yet. Hold on.
So at this point in time, we're going to ask anyone with the proponents of this decade that are here present to please come up, and we're going to be sworn in.
Do you affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Michelle Eichler.
Thank you.
Can I give you guys some maps and things that I... And then this is a agreement that the president and us have agreed to work on making something. That was drafted by an attorney, Rob is here. And that was done between us and them so that they can have permanent access.
Can you state what that is for the audience?
It's a agreement for a permanent access easement through that, if it gets vacated, the vacated road to the Provenzas. And then it also has a shared maintenance agreement, shared gate agreement, so that basically they have full access. It doesn't deny them access at all in perpetuity. Okay? And then if you wouldn't mind looking at the map that I provided you. And I think this will dispute any of the arguments as the planning department, agreed that it didn't fall under any of the reasons why it should not be vacated. And those are basically the reasons that some people here are saying that it should be. As far as maintenance, you asked about maintenance. I can't remember, and we've lived there since 2010, when it ever has been maintained. There are some big ruts and stuff that were there from last year's big flood that are still there. In fact, this is the road sign that sits at the, it's not hardly even near it. And then if you look at the map I provided, it shows the Provenza property at the very south end of the road. The red is the portion that we're asking to be vacated. And as was said earlier, our property, it goes right through the middle of our property. There's no landowner that touches it anywhere where we're asking it to be vacated. The Medley Brody property has full access. In fact, both the Maddox property and the Medley property on their north end completely are bordered by County Road 46. So they are in no way landlocked. They have complete access. Medley's and Brody access their property right off of County Road 44 there. And they have the road that goes all the way up to their house. So that other argument that they made last time that they need to be running their ponies down the middle of our property on the road, onto their road, is really quite ludicrous when you consider that they have over 100 acres there that have dirt roads on it that they could be running their ponies on. On the Maddox side, their argument is that they need access to that southeast corner of their property. There is a gate there. That is accesses a well road that is on their property. And if you look at the border between ours and Maddox's, that property line, you can see that that well road goes the entire length of our property line that we share. So they have full access to all of that fencing if they needed to fix it. They also have full access to be able to get to that gate from their property on that road. If you look at the road,
Ms. Eichler, are you
Yes.
referring to this black line here? Is this the well road that you're referring to?
yeah,
Or is that the property-
that's the property
property?
line. The well road
Well road,
is this,
okay.
okay? So if you see this Oldie Well Road, he has a gate right here, so he can totally get to the southeast section of his property off of this well road. And you know, they're not being any
And
way
this kind of
into
road down here, or is this just well road?
That's well road, that's all
That's all
private,
well road.
that's all private. Okay?
So it's like that.
Yeah, that's completely private. And if you see let's see here, this is the actual gate that he's trying to get to. If you look at that road, see how well maintained that is? How easy it would be for him to get to that gate without having to go through the middle of our property? If it was vacated. So it doesn't deny him any access to any portion of this property.
And just for sake of discussion, we haven't heard of any testimony from anybody other than what we've read here.
Correct.
So-
So I'm just disputing
okay.
the points they made. Okay, I have
Some
no
of
idea
it,
what
some
they're
of it's
saying.
logged in the minutes and some
Yes,
hasn't. So they haven't had a chance to testify yet.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm also going off of that in disputing any of the arguments that they've made, because clearly they're
Based on that.
not, they're baseless.
And Eichler's have purchased the Provenza property.
No, they still own it.
Okay.
But we have the agreement, the easement agreement, that they have perpetual rights to go through, and that we have a shared agreement to maintain the road. And currently, the Evergreen will help maintain that road because that's how they get to their wells on there. And they maintain their roads very well, as you can see from that photograph.
Okay, so the question that I have moved forward regarding the comment on the agreement, what we have is this is a draft and there are no signatures. Has this been filed in court yet?
No, sir, because there's no point to it unless you vacate the road. And so you can stipulate that it has to be done.
It's just a process.
It's just a process. My husband's actually in Africa right now, so he couldn't sign anything if he wanted to. But absolutely, you can stipulate that that has to be done in order for the road to be
You know, we do
made.
have a representative of Provenza Ranch here.
Yes, sir, we do.
need a question.
Yes, we do.
I got a question for Mr. Provenza.
We got a test. sort of-
Yeah, if I may, Commissioner will ask Mr. The Honorable Provenza. One of the questions that I have for you, Ms. Eckler, is the easement agreement is with Pioneer, now Evergreen, only and non for public use. She said, and of course this is you, that the sheriff clarified this at a different time. This is a whole different issue. In the event, so I think what this whole paragraph here is talking about, in the event of an emergency, even if the road was vacated, you are stating here that there wouldn't be denial of access.
Absolutely not. We could let anybody go through. There was last year, the ponies got out into the middle of our range. They didn't even know where they were. We informed them where they were, and we spent a half a day helping them get their ponies back.
So one of the, let me keep going here. On the paragraph that you wrote here, it says that it's not safe or legal for people to drive through their property and the neighbor has not notified or asked for permission. So it would be trespassing, but right now that is a county road, as we look at it, they
can drive to the dead end and drive back out.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes.
Is there a place where any signage, dead end road, any type of,
At the Provenza gate currently.
There is.
There is a sign that says private property, no access to state wildlife area. But I can tell you, and Mr. Campbell will tell you that they have found people camping back there. They've gone through there and actually camped on the state land by going through their property. So that's part of the safety issue. seems like no matter if you put signs or not, there's no gate, people can go through there. And his elderly mother, Lillian, lives back there. So we do, try to keep an eye on it for her. She's called us on a couple of occasions to come help her. I did also bring my son Jeb, so he can also testify as to that. And if you look at the red mark, if you look at the red portion of the road that I have marked on the map, that is in the interior of our property. There is absolutely no reason why anyone should have to go into the interior of our property to a dead end. Any argument otherwise has no merit. We're not blocking anybody. We do run an outfitting business. People driving up and down that road do interfere with our business during hunting seasons. We have our hay fields there. So it just makes sense. And, the county has not been maintaining that road. You can see the road sign is almost tipped completely over.
But Evergreen does.
Evergreen does because they have to get to their boats, yes, sir.
So right now, looking at this map, you have within your property 1, 2, 3, 4 wells? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yes, sir, there's 4 wells. Actually, yes, 4 wells.
And so the county road that is being requested to vacate actually next with those oil and gas roads?
Yes, sir, it does.
And so for your neighbors wanting to exit their property, what you're telling us here is from the proposed vacate, they can actually go on County Road 44?
Oh, yeah, they have their whole north end of their properties all border County Road 44. And that's how they enter and exit from their properties currently. And for anybody to say that during an emergency that nobody can use any roads, that's insane. Of course, you can use every road accessible to get out in an emergency. We haven't had one, thankfully, but in case of an emergency, of course everybody can drive on the roads.
Commissioners, any other questions for?
No, I don't, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify on behalf
Well,
of the
probably
proponents?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Robert Camden.
Thank you.
So hello, I'm here today representing the Provenza Ranch LLC. And we are the only landowner adjacent to the road in question, other than the Eichels. In fact, the only development or buildings or house sites on the road are the house sites at the Provenza Ranch headquarters. So we'd be the most affected by this application to vacate. In fact, the County Road 41.6 inside of our property was recently vacated by the Commission, and we thank you for your consideration of that. So I'm here today to speak in favor of the vacating of the road, County Road 41.6 through the Eichler's property. We have mentioned before several security and privacy issues, including trespassers and other people that have come into the property. In fact, there was campers on our property. They didn't camp on the state land. They camped on our private ranch. And so for those security reasons and privacy reasons, we would like to support the application to vacate. We do have an easement prepared with the Eichlers that will allow us access to our property in perpetuity, which does include a shared maintenance agreement. And so that would be signed or executed if you guys approve the application to vacate. And I can answer any questions that you guys have.
I have a question. I have a couple of different questions. So, looking into the future, knowing that if we vacate this road, how hard it would be to get it back open if for some reason you sold the Provenza Ranch, and then there wouldn't be any access through there. If you sell the ranch and somebody else purchases it, Would that easement carry over to those individuals that own the ranch?
Yes, there's language in the easement that the easement would stay with the property through all of our successors and heirs.
Question I have, Mr. Campbell, thank you for being here this morning. Question I have, I think, refresh my memory from the last time you were here, the Provenza, you represent the Provenza family as a manager of the ranch property?
Yes, and my mother actually lives on the ranch.
So do you have any power of attorney on behalf of the Provenzas?
There is a document that was signed for the county, I believe you guys have it on file, where both my mother and my uncle gave me power to represent the ranch in this manner.
One of the questions, and of course, for us, the public safety is paramount. In the event that there is a closure, I would imagine that there's going to be a gate now further out as you enter into the access property, and then there's another gate going into your property, basically delineating the whole thing. And am I understanding that there is a wildlife area behind your property, sir?
Yes, sir, that's correct. We are adjacent to a state wildlife area.
How is that property accessed? If I wanted to go camping out there, which is the mechanism by which I can actually get there? And in the event I need to be extracted, how do the local authorities respond?
Well, the main access for the state wildlife area is through Burrow Canyon. I believe it's Upper Burrow Canyon. There's a ranger station there and a parking area where people can park and then hike into the state land. There's no motorized vehicles allowed on the state property, so you must hike in or go on horseback. And that is the primary, and as far as I know, the only access to the state land. There's no actual access to the state land through our private ranch. However, in the case of an emergency, the gates always can be opened and always would be opened. In fact, if there's an emergency, I don't see any reason why somebody shouldn't just be able to cut the fence and get through in the case of a fire or other evacuation. Of course, the state people, the wildlife officers, they do use our private property to access the backside of the state land on occasion, but of course they contact us and make arrangements prior to that. So they always would be able to access the back of the state land, and evacuations would always be possible as well. And the state land does have its own parking area on the other side of the state property.
So there is access to that state wildlife area?
Yes.
What's the name of that one, Mr. Campbell?
I believe it's the Ober-Osler Tract,
Or
or it's Zacharias, excuse me, Zacharias Tract.
on the upper top side. Trying to think I would head up.
Well, you go up to Gravelier's Pass, and then head south into the ranger station from there.
I don't have any other questions, Commissioners.
Nothing, Mr. Campbell, thank you.
Thank you.
So here today to talk about the possible vacating of that road. I can attest to my time having been working on the ranch, it belonging to my parents and working with the Provenzas, that yes, the security issues with people trespassing, coming down the dead end road, accessing the state wildlife area through a direction they're not supposed to be. I found campsites before, right on the fence line, people accessing it. It does become a security issue, it affects the business, with the outfitting. We have hay fields back there that, granted, though not irrigated on a good rain year with monsoon season like we have currently, produces good hay for us. And it can be disruptive with people going in and out like that. The road, as previously stated, I don't recall a time having seen county working on that road, but I have seen the Evergreen guys going back and forth all the time to get to their stuff, the gas wells, etc. And as far as working with people in an emergency and whatnot. We've always been accommodating when it comes to an emergency, something getting loose. We work with people as best as we can, resolve issues whenever, and I think that was sum it up.
So let me go back. Thank you so much, Mr. Kramer, for appearing before us today. The fence line, and pardon, I don't have my directions, but the fence line between the Medleys and your property, if they needed to have access to that, to repair the fence, is that fence shared between the two properties, or does it belong to one or the other? What is the agreement between that? And I'm talking about the actual, when we were given the map, the fence that is right here. That would imagine that this is all fenced in, correct?
Yes, that is all fenced in. So this fence line down here, we don't have any access to. This is shared between, they can access this through roads over here, come down along there to fix that fence, and then for this section, there's trails coming up this way and that way, and otherwise, as you can see, the rest is on a hill where it's not very conducive to building a road. So that, let me get to the microphone. For that top section on the hill, typically that's something that has been blocked before. I believe in the past, the neighbors have gone up there with chainsaws and cleared out their side so they can easier access it with an ATV or on foot to be cleared better, so that they have an easier way to access that fence line. Otherwise, on top of the hill, it's more of something to access by foot, given it's on a rocky hill, has some steep sides on occasion, so it's not conducive to a road there.
But it is only one fence that separates the two properties, not two different fences, correct?
Just
one fence, and that belongs to your neighbor's property. That was my understanding, correct?
Yes.
On the Medley and Eigler side, we paid somebody to put that, to fix that fence.
Only on top of the hill, up towards another.
You're not sworn in, ma'am.
So I'm sorry.
Give me 1 second.
So Gary Mestis, not Gary Mestis, but, he's the guy who does. We paid them to repair that whole fence along that north border with the Medleys.
I have no question.
No, thank you, sir. Let me once again make another call for anyone online wishing to testify with the proponents of this road vacate request. Anyone online? And once again, anyone online wishing to provide testimony on behalf of the proponents to vacate this road. No one online? Let me now then go to, I'm going to ask all the, anyone in opposition to the vacation of this county road. I'm going to ask that you step one at a time forth, and you're going to be sworn in, and we will do the same process. So, please, ma'am.
Should I start with the chair? Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Andrea Brody.
Here.
I'm sorry. I don't always do this.
To affirm under penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Now you can say your name.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I don't do this as often. That's why I'm a bit shaky too. So anyway, my name is Andrea Brody. I'm representing Laura Medley and myself. We are the adjacent property to the if you look on the map, you know by now where we are and where the Eichler's is. And according to the law, everybody within an acre of such vacation requests has to be informed and has a right to protest as well. So I'm going to go quickly over some of the arguments. The fence along the access road to the well on our property is our fence. We finance that in its entirety. The fence that Mrs. Eichler was referring to, where they were sharing costs, is above on the hill going towards Maddox's property. We were cut off by Eichler's to access our property via those few hundred feet of access road a few years back, very vehemently, and we have currently no decent access to the top of our property there, not even through our properties, since the mill ditch was dug out. Now, in order to get to the top part, we would either have to walk to repair a fence, or we would have to have a caterpillar to get across the ditch, because the ditch is about that deep and you can't drive over it with a four-wheel drive or a truck. That's besides the point. County Road 41.6 actually provides us to a very vital part of an area where our horses would usually run if they get out. They get out not because of bad fences, we have very good fences, but usually elk destroy the fence and then the horses can get out. And since the horses first go towards the Provenza, that's usually the first place where we go look for them. And honestly, it's usually a matter of time. The longer we wait to look, once we find out, the more likely they're going to be somewhere where we can't find them. So if there is a gate there, and we would have to call every time for someone to unlock the gate, since there's no fence left and right of the gate, it's just a blockage of the road. We can't react in a timely manner. Now, we had one mare getting out once in a while into the alfalfa field of Eichler's next to our pasture. Yes, I did get a few text messages. It's there, and we were always able to retrieve the mare, or she went back in by herself. Both things happen like that. Now, that's a matter of safety as well, because if horses are out on that road, whether it's vacated or not, if they are not being caught quickly, there is always a possibility of one of the trucks that go down that road to make contact and get someone hurt. So therefore, we have to have access to that together. Now, also, County Road 41.6 is the only remaining unpaved road in the area. While we have quite a large property there, we do need to be able to safely take our green horses to be trained for trail riding. And one access is it's a nice unpaved road, it's very straight, we can go down there and it's very safe under control for us, for the horse, and since it's a public road, it's very convenient because it's adjacent to our property. Now, there is almost no vehicular traffic other than Evergreen, UPS, FedEx, and the owners of the Provenza Road. We are living there for 11 years now, and we have, honestly, not ever seen anyone that doesn't belong on that road going down that road. So there is no traffic. Now there may be the odd one, possibly we've never seen them. So there isn't a busy traffic trespassing anywhere. The me see, I have to look at my cheat sheet here. Can't even read my own writing now. Yes, basically my arguments to not vacating that road is it would cause undue hardship and inconvenience for us, the neighboring landowner, and this is referencing the section 41603 of the county's land use regulations, that the proposed vacating would not cause undue hardship or inconvenience for any utility company, special district, neighboring landowner, or tenant. It does impact us quite seriously with our horse business, since we do need to train the horses, and we would have to pack the horses into a trailer and drive somewhere else to be able to do that, and that's really hardship. Also, vacating County Road 41.6 would be proved detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of county residents, because if the horses cannot run back there, if we can't catch them, they will come back, go on County Road 44, which is a traffic road with a lot more traffic, and they can go up on County Road 46, which is a road with much more traffic, and we try to avoid that. So that's why we have to catch them early. Now, if the road gets vacated, the county is going to lose $1,460 per year in state and federal subsidies for maintaining the road. I don't think it's none of my business really, but I don't think as a taxpayer in this county that the county can afford losing any revenue whatsoever. It's usually the gas companies that run ruts into that road, and it's often the gas company that fixes that road. Right now it's not bad, it's got a few ruts on the side, but it's really not bad. Sometimes it's bad after a big rain. But I think the county council has been vacating so many roads in the past few years, it's been losing quite a lot of revenue. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Eichel claim that they have told us we could call them if we need access, so there would be no problem whatsoever. We have unfortunately made the opposite had the opposite experience where we were very vehemently told not to go anywhere near their property with extra gates being put up, etc., without any previous trouble or anything. So we do think that we will not be able to access that road if it's private in order to get our animals. I do not think that's okay. That's basically all I have today to say, and if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Attorneys, if I may. Mr. Brody, thank you for being here. Brody, right?
Brody.
Thank you for being with us here today and for your time and efforts. The question I have for you is the same I have for Mr. Campbell regarding representation of the Medley ranch owners. Do you have power of attorney or other?
We both own the ranch.
Do you own?
We both own the ranch.
You are an owner.
Yes.
So I wanted to clarify that.
We have in our contract, it's if one of us dies, the other one gets the ranch. So we are co-owners of the ranch.
So the next question I have for you is, and being a horse owner myself, how many horses do you run on your property now and raise?
We breed Icelandic horses. We run, at the moment we have 19. The number can vary from about 16 to 25, depending on how many foals we have, how many horses we sell.
And with the activity of the elk in the area, how often, is it more than not that you have fenced animals?
Constantly.
So you're
Constantly, and we can't put electric fence up because the elk take it with them and run it right into the middle of the field, and then we have big balls of electric wire in the field. So we have a combination of smooth, thick wire and some barbed wire to keep horses from getting out, with fence posts relatively close together.
And in the 11 years that you said you've been there, has there ever been an agreement between you yourself and the Eichler family regarding accessing their property, whether it's county road or not county road, to retrieve their horses?
No, after we had that incident where Eichlers forbade us to access our property via that gas road, we actually had to contact the sheriff. And the sheriff told us if the horses get in there, we can actually go and retrieve them without permission. Now, if there's a gate, we can't do that.
So there's been no formal or
No,
handshake
that
agreement?
doesn't have, apparently it doesn't have to be with an agreement.
Thank you, so question.
Mr. Maris.
Thank you for being here. When these horses exit the Medley Ranch and you go on the Eichler Ranch, and you said how do they get around the fence here to end up on
Well,
46?
There is an alfalfa field right next to our land bordering, an alfalfa field of Eichlers bordering with one of our big pastures. And the elk tend to go there and eat, and they cross over from the valley over 46 through our property, actually usually about 3 pastures. And elk are stupid. When they jump a fence, they usually get hung up somehow and they tear up wire. And they're trying to get to that alfalfa field, and this is how it happens. The fence just gets broken. And especially, deer is no problem. They jump it, they clear it, no problem. But elk gets hung up every time and break the fence. And we're constantly fencing, repairing fencing. Every time we put horses into one pasture, we check the pasture first, fix it, put the horses in it. There's no point fixing them all at the same time because in the meantime, all the others somehow will get broken anyway. You know? But as you, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of it. But Lauren Medley fenced that with 4 to 5 strands of wire everywhere, with stays in it and well tightened.
So 44 runs along Frio Canyon there.
Yes.
Is there a fence on either side of that, or one side?
Well, 44, where we are, does not border to Eichlers. There is a...
Right through your ranch, right?
Yes. Can I look at the map and I can show you exactly? Oh, perfect. So if you... okay. So if you look at where 44 hits 41.6, our land borders 44 above that intersection, going towards 46. And it borders it, you can actually see one of the fences, it borders it for, on the map, approximately a little bit less than an inch. One of our biggest pastures is adjacent to 41.6 all the way to Eichler's property line, where that Gaswell Road, that's that first Gaswell Road going up to the left. After a dispute with Eichler's, they put a gate on the bottom, and we had a gate on top from the Pioneer at the time, now Evergreen, and they put a gate on the bottom so we can't access it.
44 is paved?
I'm sorry?
Is 44 paved?
44 is unfortunately paved now. It was paved last year.
The reason I was asking, I was wondering if there was any fence next to 44, if that was open range there.
No, it's paved. The 44 itself is paved.
With fence on either side?
No, with our fence on the left and the Valentine Ranch on the other side.
Thank you.
And I'm not quite sure how much of that is Palmer, which is also a neighbor.
Any other questions for Supervisor? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Let me call on someone else that may be willing to testify for the opposition of this vacation on the road. Please come ahead.
is Diane Maddox.
Okay, do you affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And if you want, you can pull that microphone down to you a little bit, and then just state your name one more time for me.
Diane Maddox.
Thank you.
My husband and I own property that's approximately 200 to 250 feet from the road, the application we're speaking about today. And unfortunately, we weren't able to be here for the Planning Commission meeting, which we were hoping it would stop there. We had a long-standing medical appointment, but we just couldn't make it. And we heard back that we were pretty much misrepresented at this meeting as to our intentions of why we would like this blocked. So I would just like to begin kind of telling you a little bit about who we are and why we're against this vacation. I'm not new to this area. My family homesteaded here in the 1800s, and all the various lines of my family settled this area. And I'm proud to say that this year, it's 125 years that we continuously operated as a family cattle business. We raise our own feed, and we're still operating. We're here, and I mean, we take a lot of pride in the land. We've grew up knowing that it was really important to be a good steward of the land. I mean, to control erosion where we could, keep our fences up so that we're good neighbors, and also fighting the noxious weeds. We've been doing that for years. I mean, that's just part of it. And if you're familiar with the area, maybe you're not, we have large rock outcroppings on the back of our property that and tree stands that just make it inaccessible for us to get there. And fortunately, our neighbors, the Campbells, Provenzas, in the past have let us kind of access that when we need to get to this back corner where there's large rocks we can't get to repair our fences, to keep our livestock in. And so we relied on that, and we try to stay to our side most of the time. But probably the foremost issue on my mind today is I'd like to have you please consider the fact that we live on the back of this property. When we decide, our main entrance to our home is on County Road 46.0. We have a river crossing there too. And when we decided to build our home on this property, that was one of the biggest considerations we made. We know where we live, and wildfires are a major thing in our lives today. And we knew that if a big fire were to come down the canyon, we needed another escape route. So when we chose to put our home there, we knew that we would have access, only for safety reasons, to get out of the canyon. And for us, I mean, this is, God forbid that it happens, but it's really a foremost thing on our mind all the time. Also, lately we've been having flooding. If our river gets washed out, we have no way to get out of our property, so then we are unable to get out. So for this matter, before you today, it is a safety issue for us. We'd like to have access to continue to, maintain our fences, but for us, this is also safety. You can't always locate people to ask them for permission to get out if a fire's coming. So we need this road to remain open. What we are simply asking today is that we be allowed to use this county road that for generations our family has paid tax dollars, and we've contributed to the economy, settled this area, and we just want to be able to use the county roads. We need access to our property, and to have that safety exit for us if, God forbid, we ever need it. So I thank you.
Mrs. Maddox?
We might have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Chairman, if I may, thank you, Mrs. Maddox, for being with us today and for your time and your testimony. Knowing you're the owner, I'll defer from asking the question with regard to our attorney or comments regarding that. Question I do have, I'll ask the same type of question I asked before with Ms. Brody. Has there been any type of discussion with the Eitlers, possible agreement about shared key or access, such as the Provenzas was offered? Has there been any conversation regarding that or attempt?
Not on my part. My husband, if you have any technical questions, he's the attorney. He'll answer those questions for you.
But your family hasn't been approached before?
No.
And then the other thing...
we kind of found out about this by our neighbors, knowing that this was happening, so it kind of surprised us, because, I mean, when you're a rancher, you're working all the time, and you have time to come to meetings, and.
So you were
something
notified
like that.
through the planning commission because of the location of your home is within a certain amount of miles or something, so. And I see 2 well sites on here.
We've got 3 well
Three
sites
wells.
on ours, so again, Evergreen has to access those wells as well. I don't know, I think there's well sites on the Provenz's property too.
Right.
I'm not sure. So it's more than 4 wells on either side.
So along these upper 2, that's a well.
Yeah, there's
that goes
2.
Up and down the edge of that,
I'm not familiar with the map.
and then,
Where the Provenz's, I didn't see.
yes, Provences will be down here.
Okay.
So this is the end of the
we've
back
got-
road where they
Yeah,
want it?
we've got these 2 well sites in there.
Those are the actors. This is
Oh, I'm
your
sorry.
second. So those.
Oh, yes, 2, and then they come further down the road into Provenz's spaces.
So
Go ahead.
So Evergreen has to access it from down here?
Yes,
To
yes,
get to these?
to get to these, and then they go further down. to get to
And where is your house located in this
Um,
reference?
We're right here. So here's our river crossing, here's County Road 46. So if the fire comes down this way and we can't get across, we would be able to exit the
So
county.
say about right there is the
Yes.
house.
Is that so, Marcus, one of my question, looking at the same map, so are you accessing 41-6 right now?
No, we do not.
Okay,
We
so
only-
you exit out on 46.
There's been occasion when the gas company leaves our gates wide open and then we'll get a call that our horses are out. We keep our fences up, but the horses are allowed to go get out. Just this last year or a couple years ago, they were allowed to get out and they were locked out. They had no access to water and we lost one of our biggest geldings. We had to put her down. So for us, it's a safety for our animals too.
So this is the creek that you're referring to? If
Yeah,
there was-
yes, if there was a big washout, that's the official.
You're on the opposite
Yeah,
side,
yes,
and so I guess I'm gonna go back to the same question that Commissioner Luis Lopez asked. In the event of an emergency and we heard from the Eichler family that they would be providing access in the event of an emergency to
We
evacuate.
can't.
Okay,
I can't speak for them, but I know they're gone a lot. And I mean, they've got other businesses, so we don't know how to contact them, so I can't depend on,
so is there a county bridge that
no,
is?
it's all private, we built it ourselves.
Okay.
And the development, I forget the name of it.
Well, it was all part of
Sun-
no, it was all part of the Alpine Ranch at one time that was subdivided, and we bought the part with the ranch and all the hay fields. And then the other part went into Spirit Mountain.
Spirit Mountain.
And they're across 46.0, but those are all privately owned. We're on the other side.
That's a
of
private
46.
HOA, right?
Yes.
I have no questions, Chairman.
Commissioner Hess? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Do you affirm and not guilty of perjury? The testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Tom Maddox.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. It is still morning. I'll probably be a little more technical than my wife was, so I apologize in advance. Pamela knows that's what attorneys do. But as my wife said, she and I own the Maddox Ranch. It's 415 acres in Golden. We also pay county taxes on 3 additional parcels in this wonderful county. We partially abut the Eichlers, partially abut the Brodies, and then partially abut the Provenzas to the south. We've been using the portion of County Road 41.6 that's the subject of this application for decades to access the rear of our ranch, to fix fence, and retrieve horses when Evergreen leaves the back gate open. Frequently, Mrs. Provenza will call us and tell us the horses got out, and she's kind enough to let us go back and retrieve them. So we've been using 41.6 for years. Also, as my wife said, we view this road as a vital rear escape route in the event of a wildfire. We do not physically abut 41.6, but we're only about 200 to 250 feet away, and we've been using an evergreen access road that you probably saw on the map with no objections from anyone for years. In fact, we have our own lock on the back of that gate, and with Evergreen's knowledge. We maintain this application does not satisfy the criteria set forth in 4.16.03 of the county land use regulations. And those are the regulations that set forth the county's criteria for action on a vacation application. And I want to note that it is not necessary that my land physically abut the county road in order for you to deny this application. And that's true for at least the following reasons. First, subparagraph 1 of section 4.16.03 regarding the criteria includes language stating that, quote, the proposed vacating would not interfere with or deny access via public thoroughfare to sites located beyond the right-of-way or easement to be vacated. As I said, I'm just slightly beyond the right-of-way to be vacated. We use this road, and approval of this application will interfere with and deny us access to the public thoroughfare. Second, subparagraph 2 of that same section states, quote, the proposed vacating would not cause undue hardship or inconvenience. It's not necessity, it's inconvenience for any neighboring landowner. The Oxford Dictionary defines neighboring as next to or very near. As I said, the rear gate to our property is very near 41.6, and it's often more convenient for us to access our property from the rear, especially to work on the common fence that we put up. Further up the road, we have a common fence between our ranch and the Provenzas. And then third, and I think most importantly, subparagraph 3 of that same section states, quote, the proposed vacating would not be likely to prove detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of county residents. As I said, we view this road as vital to our health and safety in the event of a wildfire, and also an important access road in the event of a flood on the Episcopal River that might wash out the bridge between our house and County Road 46. And we find nothing in the application for this vacation that describes why it's needed, even though section 4.16.023 requires that the submittal include a narrative statement describing the proposed vacating action and providing an explanation of why the proposed vacating should be approved by the Planning Commission. Like my wife said, we were not here at the Planning Commission meeting, but we've heard that the applicants may have discussed safety and privacy at the Planning Commission meeting. Again, note we're talking about the application for the I-4 stretch of the road today, not camping on the Provenza property. So here I note that the applicants, as disclosed in their application, do not even live on County Road 41.6. Their access to their house is on County Road 44. And then even the older building improvements that you can see from 41.6, those are along the portion of the road owned by the roadies that is not being vacated. And besides that, there's a huge ravine that runs along 41.6 that would stop anyone from accessing their improvements that face 41.6. So therefore, approval of this vacation, in my opinion, does nothing to increase applicant safety or privacy, but it does threaten our safety. Approval of a request for vacation is a discretionary act for you as the county commissioners. We maintain that approval of this application would really be an abuse of that discretion since it does not comply with your land use regulations. Further, it seems that vacation is a pretty extreme remedy to just close down a road that people have been using for years. So it seems like an extreme remedy when you know other residents use that road and have had the right to use that road for years. If the applicants really have concerns about safety or trespassers, why have they not posted signs at the very beginning of their property that say dead end road, no access to wildlife area? And heck, I'll help pay for those signs. That would be a less extreme approach. The other thing they could do, like most owners in agriculturally zoned land do, is put a fence along the road. And the trespassers can't come into your property. there is no fencing along the Eichler portion of that road. There isn't the Brody's, and I believe there isn't the Provenza's. Lastly, I'll get a little technical again, but you probably know that section 1.03, which was kind of almost in the preamble portion of your land use regulations, states that the very purpose of the regulations is to protect and promote the health, welfare, safety, comfort, convenience, and prosperity of the present and future residents of Los Angeles County. These purposes include securing for county residents safety from fire, floodwaters, toxic substances, and other potential hazards, dangers, and nuisances. Section 105 then goes on to state that provisions of these regulations shall be considered minimum requirements for the protection of public health, safety, comfort, and convenience. In closing, I guess I just have to ask, why the county would want to take on the risk and potential liability for injuries or death to me, my family, my guests, by vacating our southerly escape route, especially when less extreme measures like signage and fencing have not even been tried. The simple and I think correct response to that question is to just say no to this application. Thank you.
Sir, follow-up, Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
I'm looking at a map here with, thank you for being here. The Eichler corner and the Maddox corner are together. Currently, that road dead ends right there going into the Provenza property, correct?
Correct.
And the fence is adjacent to the well pad, correct? I mean,
I believe that's correct. I don't see the map, but I believe that's correct.
This is the one I'm looking at. Come on over. So, this is the existing line, correct? The fence line, the orange? Correct. Okay, the county road lays on the Provenza side, correct? It's the access road for the basketball. So are you going to have access there to get onto that?
The Provenza family has always allowed me to access that area. My problem is that Eichlers will most likely, I believe their document mentioned a gate that will be installed, and I will have no access to escape and go down that.
So that's already been established, that gate, the closure of that piece of road going into Provenza.
It's already been vacated. Right. That is right. And I will point out that I think there may be some notion that we're not being good neighbors. We intentionally did not object to the Provenza road vacation. That dead ends right into their property. They've always permitted us to use that short 200 to 250 stretch, to get down to the road. But as I said, that does us no good if we get down there and then it's blocked off further down the road. We also did not object to the Eichler application to vacate 41.7, which was a road going up to their gas well.
I have a question, Mr. Maddox. Thank you for being here. Very well prepared presentation, of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maddox, I do have a question
Yes,
for
sir.
you. When I look at the boundary between your property and the Eichler's property, who owns this fence right here and also on the Provenza Ranch? Is that your fence or is that a shared property?
I believe that's a shared fence.
Okay, this is the Medleys.
Oh, Medleys.
Yes, the Eichler's is this section right here, and this is your property right here.
Right.
So my question was, who
This would be a shared fence.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, we owned the property before they bought it, so it was there, we maintained it, improved it.
So you do.
So we're the ones that fixed it, yeah.
You are working with the Eichler family.
Well,
We
we
just
fix
fixed
it because we have horses that we need to keep in, so we prepare it. They've only, they plow and use their pastures, or whatever, but we have to keep livestock in, so we're the ones that maintain it.
What you say that is Armayo?
No.
Not that? Okay.
I spray them. No, I should say, if they are maintaining, doing some maintenance, I'm just not aware.
Well,
We try to keep it.
Okay, any other questions from Mr. Maddox? Anyone online? Mr. Maddox, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else here that wishes to provide testimony on the opposition of this 41.6 County Road vacation? So, anyone online? Otherwise, I'm going to ask the applicants to come up and address any concerns, any perhaps provide any responses to the testimony.
I'll just remind you that you're still under oath.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, just quickly, we were just talking about that part of the fence line. All of the arguments they're making as far as having access to their fences and being able to fix them and all that kind of stuff, if you actually look at the portion you were just talking about, he has better access to that well road, to that portion of the fence to fix it, than we do with all of the trees. If you look at, we would have to walk, which we do, because we do run cows on there in the wintertime, so we do maintain those fences. We actually did pay people to fix them at one point when they were in disrepair. The other thing about them saying how, this big thing about they have to be able to get their animals and, that we're going to somehow deny them access. Ms. Brody was incorrect when she stated to you what the sheriff said. She may have misunderstood him, but I do have an email from him, the undersheriff, Ray, sent Stephen, and this is what he said to me in an email. As to what we discussed by phone with livestock going onto another person's property, when livestock go onto another property, the livestock owner cannot just go onto the other property and get the animal without permission. So all of that is false. The livestock owner must first get permission from the property owner. With that, the property owner cannot hinder the livestock owner from getting their animals back. So the property owner has two options: to either give permission for the livestock owner to get the animal, or the property owner can take the animal to their owner. The property owner can file a suit with the courts for grazing fees if they so choose, but keeping the animal is not an option. If you have any further questions, please let me know. So, therefore, when Andrea was talking about how they were accessing their gate through that well road constantly without asking us permission. So yes, my husband had a problem with that after about the fourth time of catching them going across our property without informing us. And to say that they could never get in touch with us, they all have my cell phone number. We all have cell phones, okay? They can call me, no problem.
One question on the
Yes.
email from Mr. Santos.
Yes.
What's the date of that? You take this email to me.
June 23rd, 22.
You're in real song.
Okay. And then the argument about the access and the emergencies, if the Provences put a gate, if our road doesn't get vacated and the Provences put a gate right there, they still can't get in or out from there. We would have a shared gate with the Provences, and in no circumstance, in case of an emergency, would we ever deny anybody the right to be able to get out and save their life, for gosh sakes. I mean, that's absolutely insane. We've never done that. For them to say that we don't help them or that they're afraid that we're not going to let them get their animals, by law, we can't stop them, but they do have to let us know they're coming. And like I said earlier, last year, their ponies, not yours, their ponies got into the middle of our ranch. We informed them, and we personally spent a half a day helping them get their ponies back. So we have been good neighbors. What we don't like is people coming onto the property without informing us, especially when we run an outfitting business, when we have hunters there. During rifle season, they're hunting with rifles. So there is a safety concern. There are people going back and forth. And just as, they talked about putting up signage, This is a picture of a sign that says no access to state wildlife area. It's in yellow, big, black. They still go through there, and this is actually a photo of Mr. Maddox without permission yesterday going on to the fence.
It's not true. It's not true. It is true.
But she said I need to know.
Our reputation is at stake, and that's not fair.
Give me 1 second, that's new evidence, and we'll go ahead and,
Okay.
any additional information?
No, that just, thing, so we did not cut them off. As far as the mill ditch on the road easements, if you look at the map, again, it's just unbelievable. This is the gate they're trying to get to. This is the well road they kept crossing. Okay, right here. To get to this gate. Why on God's green earth can they not go across their pasture to get to that same gate? They do it all the time. So all their arguments have no merit. It's just to cause a problem.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Sackler?
I think there'd be a rebuttal.
Yes.
But we have evidence if needed.
Yes, we're going to ask Mr. Myers, please come back up.
Thank you very much. I just want to
Once
make,
again, that you're still on the road.
still under road. Just a couple of quick points. One, as I've tried to explain, we're long-term county taxpayers. We have the right to be on that county road. So for the applicant to argue that we should give up the security of a county road and rely on the goodwill of a neighbor in the event of emergency, I just think is an unfair proposition to us. Secondly, there was just some comment about trespassing. Yesterday, I drove the county portion of the road to try to look at my back gate, sort of just in preparation and have it in my mind for today's meeting. The applicant drives up behind me, sits there for a while, finally backs up, and I was concerned I might back up onto her property, and who knows, she may have called the sheriff. So I had to back up a little onto the Provenza property just to get out of there again. I immediately called Robert Campbell, told him what happened. I was not trespassing. I made a minor turn, so I don't know what those pictures showed, but I resent the accusations of trespassing. But again, my main point, this is a dedicated county road that's been used by people for years. It's sort of an extraordinary act just to decide we're going to vacate this road, despite the fact that neighbors say we use it. You don't have to do it. It's an extreme remedy, and again, I ask you to leave it as a county road, so I don't have to rely on others to maintain, to give me a key. As the applicant mentioned, her husband's in Africa. I understand they often go big game hunting, and who knows if I'll be able to contact them in the event of an emergency. That's a burden I should not have to bear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? No questions. Thank you, sir. You should. Any?
I just want to know, will we be from legal advice on standards?
Right. Anybody else at this point in time? Let me call on, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Can I say?
Please come up. Please come up once again. And once again, you're reminded that you're on the road?
Yes. When I consulted the sheriff about that was approximately 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not quite sure when that was. That is what the sheriff told us. We didn't make this up. We didn't misunderstand the sheriff. I'm a doctor. I don't misunderstand things. I'm sorry. The Eichlers have been very friendly at times when they wanted something from us. But in general, we have no friendly contact with them because they constantly hinder us from doing things. And, playing or saying that they were super friendly and helped us, that was a one-time thing. That was out constantly, and my horses don't get out constantly either. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Let me put another call one more time for anyone wishing to testify on this particular vacation of the proposed vacation of County Road 41.6. Otherwise, this public hearing has concluded, and at this point in time, I am going to, commissioners, would you like, what would be the next step that you recommend?
Chairman, if I may, I'd like to take a 10-minute recess and adjourn into, after that recess, into executive session for legal advice from legal counsel regarding some issues I have regarding the legalities of our next steps on how to proceed with this time.
Start with the motion. Okay.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes, so it is, we will go into executive session approximately at 11:30. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take the 10 minutes.